The world of competitive Smash is a world full of highs
to be your 2019 EVO champion!
And a world full of lows.
That's it! Bobbles is in grand finals! Arizona has done it! The Ice Climbers have been free!
Wait, do they know it's 2 out of 3? I think they think it's 3 out of 5. Yeah, I think they think it's 3 out of 5 because that's the standard.
And there's the handshake, Hungry Box.
Oh, Hungry Box is not happy about this.
There's the handshake. And Wobbles, such a story.
It's a competitive scene built on grassroots that have grown to levels that some may have never thought possible. And while it seems like there are always new opportunities for each iteration of the series to shine, there always seems to be some setbacks that stand in the way of opportunity. The thing about Smash is that there will always be tournaments around. Every day of the week there's a tournament going on somewhere. And sure, it might just be your local tournament with 15 players in attendance, but that's okay because in a couple weeks you've probably got your city's monthly tournament going on. And if that's not big enough for you, you probably have a regional tournament coming up. And if that's not big enough for you, you probably have a major tournament coming up that's at least somewhat nearby. The point is, there has always and will always be tournaments to attend for Smash across the US and really across the world. Throughout the last few decades, Smash has seen a bunch of staple tournaments that competitors and viewers can look forward to every single year. Tournaments like Apex, The Big House, Genesis, and Super Smash Con are annual events that the Smash community can look forward to time and time again. And sure, while some of the big staple tournaments have seemingly disappeared, there will always be new events popping up to fill the void. That being said, there's one tournament series that we've lost over the years that we haven't been able to fill that void for, and that of course is EVO, the tournament series with the most complicated relationship to Smash. EVO is the mecca of fighting game tournaments. Originally created way back in 1996, EVO has built up a reputation of the largest fighting game tournament in the world year after year. A big reason why this tournament is so big is because it kind of brings together the whole fighting game community. Unlike a standalone Smash tournament, EVO always features multiple games, and usually games that are completely different from one another. That means on Championship Sunday, while you're waiting for top 8 of your favorite game to start, you'll likely get a glimpse at a few other games, which might pique your interest and ultimately lead you down the rabbit hole of getting into another competitive game, but that's how communities grow. I mean, I even found myself watching some Guilty Gear this year at EVO, which I knew nothing about, but I did recognize that name Leffen on the screen, and I understood the concept of hitting your opponent until their health bar goes to 0, so for me it was entertaining. And that's where Smash is a little more unique compared to most traditional fighting games. While each fighting game is different and features different characters, a lot of them are at least somewhat similar in the way that they play. Smash, on the other hand, is not. It's fundamentally a different game from traditional fighting games, and some have argued that you can't even consider it a fighting game. Which, I mean, I guess I kinda understand the argument, but at the same time, it is a game and you do fights, so like, doesn't that make it a fighting game? I mean, when I look at a game like Shrek Super Slam, it just screams fighting game. Even though it's not a traditional fighting game, it's a fighting game, you know what I mean? But that's besides the point. So why was EVO such a big deal for Smash anyways? Well, to understand that, we have to look at the history between EVO and Smash. Smash first appeared at EVO with Melee back in 2007, and at the time, this would be the largest Smash tournament ever, with 270 entrants and a prize pool of over $10,000. Crazy to see how far we've come since then now, right? The event had most of Melee's best players at the time, and the top featured everyone's favorite Puff main in third place in Mango. Second place would go to Hugs' Samus, and first place, of course, went to the original GOAT of Smash, Ken.
I'm a professional gamer, and I'm a 5-time world champion at the Super Smash Bros. Melee, and basically the game is just about building up percentages, hitting your players, and once they're high enough, you just knock them off the screen.
So after a successful tournament that brought together the best players in the world, you would think that we can only go up from here, right? Well, this is just the beginning of that complicated relationship between EVO and Smash that I mentioned. At the beginning of 2008, Super Smash Bros. Brawl released for the Wii, and as most people already know, this game was the complete opposite of Melee. Slower gameplay, lamer characters, tripping, and a whole lot of other issues. But we won't get into any of that today. At the time, this was the shiny brand new game, and just like anything else, typically when a series has been around for a while and gets a brand new game, all the attention shifts over to the new game, leaving the old game to just collect dust on the shelf. Since Brawl had just come out, and considering that some people already argued against Smash being at EVO in the first place, it wouldn't make sense to have both Melee and Brawl at EVO. So instead, EVO decided to only include Brawl in the lineup that year. And instead of consulting literally anybody from the competitive community about a rule set, they decided to create their own rule set, which included the following: items on, set to medium spawn, 3 stocks, 5 minutes, and this stage list. Now I know what you might be thinking, if you're the best at the game, you should be able to win regardless of the rule set. And while that was kind of proven to be true because Ken was in Grand Finals again, it works a little bit differently for Smash with items, because adding items in Smash adds a certain level of variance to the results. Items are completely random and can't always be accounted for, and that sometimes allows people that might not be as good at the game get some wins that they might not always deserve. And that was the case for the other person in Grand Finals that year, and the eventual champion of Brawl at EVO 2008. That player went by the tag CPU. Oh, what's that? You've never heard of him? Well, that's completely understandable because back in 2008, CPU was a 14-year-old kid that was on a family vacation, and he just so happened to be near the area that EVO was taking place in, so he entered for fun. This dude just casually entered EVO and won the whole tournament over arguably the best Melee player of all time. Actually, now that I think about it, maybe we should have items on. Maybe I'd have a chance to win an EVO. That's crazy. Naturally, with a controversial rule set, there's going to be some pushback from the community, and this pretty much resulted in Smash not being at the next EVO. Or the next one. Or the next one. By the time 2013 rolled around, the Smash community was pretty much split in half. Both Melee and Brawl had competitive scenes with decent entry numbers at tournaments for every level, and there were still big major tournaments to look forward to for both games. It seemed like we didn't even really need an EVO for Smash. Up to this point, all we had was EVO back in 2007, which was kind of cool, and then EVO in 2008, which was a complete disaster. But let me tell you something, when an opportunity presents itself like EVO, you've got to jump on it. At the beginning of 2013, the EVO staff announced that they would be hosting a donation drive for that final coveted 8th slot at EVO that year. Whichever community could raise the most money towards breast cancer research would have their game featured for EVO 2013 as a main title. And who would have guessed it, Melee managed to raise over $90,000, surpassing Skullgirls, which raised almost $80,000, allowing Melee to claim that final 8th slot at EVO 2013. Smash was officially back and about to be bigger than ever. Or so we thought. Come on, you guys, I told you that the relationship with EVO has been complicated throughout the years. You didn't think we were gonna raise almost 100K for charity and get that promised spot at EVO with no issues, right? In typical Nintendo fashion, they decided to wait till the last week before EVO to let everyone know that it was time to shut it down. They did not want Melee to be broadcasted at EVO, and they really didn't want Melee to be at EVO in the first place. You guys all raised 100K for charity to see your favorite game at the largest tournament of the year? Well, too bad. We don't want anything to do with it. You might be wondering what the reason behind all of this was. Why would a company shut down a tournament for their own game at one of the largest events of the year, and at a tournament where most people there probably don't even own a Nintendo console, so they might actually buy one as a result of the tournament being there? Well, that's the thing, they didn't really have a valid reason. Or at least they didn't come out and directly tell us their reason. Since Nintendo's original decision back in 2013, we've had a few glimpses of what led to that initial decision to shut Melee down.
2013 EVO was the real fiasco where, you know, EVO had planned to have Melee there, but at the last second, Nintendo had tried to shut it down.
I was told that this was a marketing decision. EVO 2013 took place in July. If you look at that year, what happened June 2013, that was E3. That was when Nintendo announced Super Smash Bros., Wii U, and Nintendo 3DS. That was it. That was the reason why it was removed from EVO, is because Nintendo was announcing a brand new Smash Brothers, and they were tired of the focus being on 2 games ago. Nintendo wanted the focus to be on the game that we just announced. We just announced this game. So part of their marketing plan included it not being at EVO.
In hindsight, I think I can kind of string the pieces together of what happened, which was, you know, there probably wasn't a lot of communication between Nintendo and EVO before, and, you know, EVO probably approached Nintendo very late about it.
Yeah,
and said,
I think so.
Hey, well, here's the things we want to do, and I think Nintendo maybe felt backed into a corner.
Yeah.
After a few hours of receiving tons of backlash online and arguably more quote-unquote bad PR than they would have gotten by just letting the tournament run in the first place, Nintendo decided to retract their decision, allowing Melee to continue on for EVO 2013. Melee would go on to have over 700 entrants that year for EVO, pretty much doubling the previous largest Melee tournament of all time. EVO 2013 was massive, not only for Melee but for the Smash community in general, bringing in over 100,000 viewers to showcase that children's party game that we all had as a kid, but this time it was played at the highest and most elite level. EVO opened up the world of competitive Smash to thousands of people across the globe that would have otherwise never looked into it, and that's because this was the biggest stage in the whole world for fighting games. EVO was a chance for any game to shine in front of the whole world, and out of all the possible games, it was Melee that rose to the spotlight. So the big question is, what was going to happen for 2014? Smash 4 just got announced, and it seemed like Nintendo wasn't like fully on board with EVO, so what was going to happen? You might be wondering if this was going to be a repeat of 2008 when Brawl was released, with the new game being at EVO and the old game just kind of being casted away. Well, luckily, Smash 4 wasn't going to come out until the end of 2014 after EVO happened, and it also helped that there were at least some people at Nintendo wanting to help the Smash community.
It's like some time passed and it was like, gosh, there's going to be another EVO. I wonder, what are we doing to get ahead of that?
Right.
And I started asking around. And it didn't seem to be on anybody's radar at all. So I get kind of this unofficial green light to kind of poke around on this and see what we can do. It all seemed like reasonable people could find a way to make this work.
Yeah, if you both wanted the same end result, you know.
Yeah. So it seemed like if we could get agreement on these things, like we could do this.
And just like that, it was time to run it back. It's kind of crazy that within the span of 1 year, we went from Nintendo trying to shut down a tournament that was made possible through charity donations, to the president of Nintendo of America saying this.
I wanted to officially wish you luck in the final stages of the Super Smash Bros. Melee tournament at EVO 2014.
But hey, like I said, this relationship with EVO is kind of complicated, so it makes sense. EVO 2014 continued to push Melee in the right direction. We saw more entrants than the year before, more viewers than the year before, and most importantly, more potential than the year before. For the first time ever, it seemed like Nintendo was at least somewhat on board with the Smash community, and this was especially big news for Melee considering the newest Smash game was right around the corner. So here we go again. It's 2015 and we just recently had a successful EVO tournament last year featuring Melee. And now we have a brand new Smash game that just came out. So what does that mean for EVO 2015? Well, unlike 2008, Melee wasn't ditched for the newest Smash game, and instead, to many people's surprise, Smash would take up 2 slots at EVO this year, with both Melee and Smash Wii U. But similar to 2008, the rule set for the new Smash game of course had to come with some controversy.
5 seconds left on the clock, 63%, not really doable.
Yep.
He goes for the timeout. Ooh. Hey.
All right, well, game 3 is coming up, guys.
Larry versus Captain Awesome. Game 3, Villager versus Sheik.
That's right, with the release of Smash 4 came custom moves. Basically in Smash, every character has their own unique moveset, but custom moves made these movesets even more unique. Custom moves were pretty much an optional feature that allowed you to change all 4 special moves for your character, and each one of those moves had 3 possible options. And while for some characters this didn't change much, it meant the world for other characters, allowing them to go from bottom or mid tier all the way up to top tier in the game. Not only were some of these moves broken, it just created a big hassle for everybody involved. You had to go and manually unlock these moves for every single console, which could take hours at a time, and half the time it didn't seem worth it because the majority of these moves were never going to be used anyways. I mean, the game hadn't even been out for a year yet, and most people probably didn't even know what character they wanted to play, much less what custom set they were going to use. And especially considering that most tournaments leading up to EVO had already banned them. I could probably do a whole separate video about custom moves back in Smash 4, but that would probably take me a while to make. So it's a good thing that I already made it, and you can check it out after this video. A link will be in the description below. For the next 3 years, EVO would continue to feature both Smash 4 and Melee each year, and the numbers kept rising for both games. Both games peaked in 2016, with Melee having a total of 2,372 entrants, and Smash 4 would have a total of 2,662 entrants that year, making EVO the largest Smash tournament of all time for both games. But of course, with a big increase in numbers from one year to the next, some issues were bound to arise. The big controversy of EVO 2016 had to do with the overall scheduling of the event and the general lack of space, and that's something that really impacted Smash 4 specifically.
There were a little bit of scheduling issues. Do you feel like that, I guess, impacted people's play at all, like the way the tournament went for them individually?
Yes. Some people finished at like 12 midnight, and then we had to get up at like 7 at the latest to make it to the venue at 8 to already start playing.
If you know anything about competitive Smash, I'm sure you've seen at least one clip of Hungrybox on the big stage winning against Armada, and yeah, that was back in EVO 2016. Smash 4 was also at EVO 2016, but it didn't get one of those main stage slots for Sunday. Instead, the game with nearly 2,700 entries was forced to finish up over the span of 1.5 days. And naturally, that's going to require a ton of setups in a space that probably shouldn't have that many setups, and it also means that every last minute of the day is going to be used to get the matches faster. And overall, that created a pretty miserable experience for most of the Smash 4 competitors. But despite the success of Melee that year and the misery that Smash 4 dealt with, things were about to change for 2017.
Welcome to the Mandalay Bay Event Center here in Las Vegas, Nevada for the Evolution Championship Series Top 8 Finals of Super Smash Bros. for Wii U. My name is D1 and I am here with Vicky Kitty. And Vicky, I have to tell you, it has been an amazing weekend thus far for Smash. We had 1,500 plus players, and now we're down to the top 8.
This entire weekend has been phenomenal.
Based on how this video started, I'm sure the last thing you would have predicted would be to see Smash 4 being broadcasted on Disney XD for EVO, and only 4 years after that whole controversy back in 2013. But yeah, this actually happened. Even though 2017 saw a decline in entrants for both Melee and Smash 4, for the first time ever we got to see Smash being broadcasted on actual cable TV. But just like the previous year at EVO, it seemed like there could only be one Smash game to receive one of those coveted Championship Sunday slots, which meant that Melee would be the game to take one for the team while Smash 4 had that spotlight. So yeah, EVO 2017 wasn't the best tournament logistically for Melee or gameplay wise for Smash 4, but it seemed like Smash was in a good place with EVO and for both games. Every tournament's gonna have their flaws, but Smash was still pulling in massive numbers, and it seemed like EVO had a good system going. You feature both Smash games every year and just swap between the two for whoever gets the big Sunday slot, right? I mean, it's 2017, we're past the days of Nintendo being the problem, right? And we've got two solid Smash games in a healthy place. So the only possible thing that could go wrong moving forward would be some more scheduling nonsense, but overall both games are at a pretty good place moving forward, right?
Just lost control of that set, man. He was up 2-0, and Captain Zach with the backdoor 3-0 to send us in the grand final set number 2.
Oh, they're actually doing an interview. Is this real? I can't tell this. I feel like this is Action Mac. We're doing an interview right now.
Sure, what's going on over here?
Mr. Wizard is already thinking about how he's going to keep us away from EVO for the rest of his time, bro.
Yeah, we're cooked. Smash is dead. Pack it up. That's it. All I can say about 2018 is that I'm very glad that Smash had that Disney deal back in 2017 instead of this EVO, because they might have just canceled development for Ultimate altogether. Smash 4 was a disaster in 2018. Best player in the world, Zero, had announced his retirement before EVO, Bayonetta continued to dominate the game, and the whole community was literally just waiting for Smash Ultimate to release later that year.
I feel like people would take the game more seriously if we didn't know about Ultimate still. So like everyone's kind of, like you said, biding their time and waiting for Ultimate to come out, but like if we didn't know Ultimate's coming out in December, people would still be try-harding and doing their best and going to every event and competing at the top level. Nowadays, people, they place not where they think they should or where they want to place, and they're like, nah, just wait till Ultimate, it's okay.
But the final nail in the coffin for Smash 4 was EVO Grand Finals 2018. And it's kind of fitting that just 10 years earlier we had quote-unquote the worst Grand Finals ever with, a random kid basically winning because of items. And then 10 years later we have this Grand Finals, which probably takes the title of worst EVO Grand Finals.
However, that Winners Finals, we saw Lima take it quite handily. Will that be the case here, or will Zach send us into another set? You ain't gotta wait long for the answer to that.
Whoa!
No, not like that. Yes, the homie stock.
So yeah, Smash 4 was a disaster, but I guess it didn't really matter too much, right? Nintendo was at EVO that year showcasing Ultimate, and it was pretty much a foregone conclusion that Ultimate was going to be at EVO 2019. Not only that, but most people predicted it would be the largest tournament at EVO next year. I mean, Nintendo even gave Melee players a little bit of love and showcased some of the Melee community at EVO. And even though Smash 4 was a disaster that year, Melee was sitting good. Leffen, the God Slayer, would win his first EVO over Armada that year, and while doing it on the big stage in that Sunday spotlight. So Smash 4 was pretty much dead, but it's okay because Ultimate was right around the corner. And on the other side, it seemed like Melee was alive and well, so there really wasn't much to worry about. That is, for now.
Mr. Wizard has kind of hinted, almost a little bit threatened, that there's a chance 2 Smash games will not be included in EVO next year. With Smash Ultimate coming out, it's pretty clear that where the money is going to go from the Nintendo side of it, what they'll support.
I got to ask as well, sure, where's Smash Bros. Melee?
I mean, Melee had a great run at EVO, and it's unfortunately it won't be a official title this year at EVO 2019.
Like I said at the start of the video, the world of competitive Smash is a world full of highs and a world full of lows. And while 2019 showcased Smash Ultimate at the highest level possible, making it the largest Smash tournament ever and the largest game at EVO that year, it also came with the lows of Melee's longtime run at EVO effectively coming to an end. For the first time since 2014, only one Smash game was going to be at EVO. Despite the entrance and the viewership that Melee brought to EVO year after year, it wasn't enough to get an official slot at EVO anymore. Leading up to 2019, it always felt like there was a constant battle between people that wanted both Smash games to be at EVO and people that felt like one series didn't deserve 2 slots every single year. And while I can kind of understand that argument, it doesn't really make sense to me when both Smash games are pulling in some of the biggest numbers year after year on their own. It's not like one game had way more entrants than the other game every year. They were always both around the same as far as numbers go. And with Ultimate's numbers in 2019, it was pretty obvious that it was going to be back in 2020, but what about Melee? Would it ever get the chance to return? Or was that just it? Well, little did we know it at the time, 2019 was likely the last time we would ever see Smash on the big stage at Mandalay Bay.
The breaking news, stay at home. That is the order tonight from 4 state governors as the coronavirus pandemic spreads. New York, California, Illinois, and Connecticut all ordering non-essential employees to stay home. Those orders cover 75 million people across the United States. New York's governor today telling non-essential businesses in his state to reduce their workforce to 0.
2020 was an eventful year to say the least, and I'm not even talking about just for Smash. The entire world was going through the COVID-19 pandemic, and that had an impact on everything you did and everywhere you went. The lineup for EVO 2020 was announced a little bit before the pandemic started, and Smash Ultimate was of course one of the games listed that year. But again, Melee was absent from that list. A few months later, it would be announced that EVO 2020 would be cancelled due to the pandemic, but don't worry because there's going to be an entire online event to allow EVO to continue. And sure, it may not be in person, but at least we'll give you guys something, right?
So EVO 2020 was supposed to take place July 31st to August 2nd, 2020. Obviously, due to the pandemic that's going on, it wasn't going to be in physical form. It was going to be online. But due to allegations against the president or former president of EVO, it's been canceled.
Yeah, so a lot of things happened that summer with Smash, with EVO, just in general, lots of things happened that summer, but I'm gonna give you guys the simplified rundown. Basically, some allegations surfaced about the president of EVO, Mr. Wizard, doing some bad things to minors a few decades earlier, and he basically came out and admitted that he had done some bad things. So right away, he was removed as EVO president, and all online events that were planned for EVO that year were immediately canceled. Fast forward a couple months, and we find out that it would be Sony taking over EVO. Sony would be buying EVO, they're gonna be running EVO, and this is going to open up so many opportunities that weren't present before. Now at this point in the timeline, it's natural to feel a bit anxious about Smash's future at EVO given that Sony, a direct competitor with Nintendo, basically owned EVO moving forward. But don't worry because EVO came out with a statement right away reassuring everybody that they would continue to be open with supporting all fighting games regardless of the platform. And this was big news because it basically put that ball in Nintendo's court. But unfortunately for the Smash community, Nintendo has a history of shooting free throws like Shaq. While EVO 2021 also kinda didn't happen, we at least got to see some online events, at least for the games that have somewhat decent connection online. I don't think anyone expected to see Smash online at EVO that year or even wanted to see it, so it really wasn't a big deal at the time. It wasn't a big deal until February 2022.
Please join us on March 8th, 5 p.m. PST on twitch.tv/EVO for the EVO 2022 announcement show. Well, we're thankful for all the amazing games joining us later this year in Las Vegas. We want to let you know in advance with a picture of MKLeo holding his trophy. That Super Smash Brothers, not Melee, not Ultimate, just Super Smash Bros in general, will not be making a return appearance.
And just like that, everything had come full circle. Just like many years ago, Nintendo themselves had stepped in and attempted to shut things down, except that this time they actually succeeded. Despite being the biggest game at the previous in-person EVO, it didn't matter. Despite Sony willing to allow all fighting games at EVO, it didn't matter. Despite the pandemic finally slowing down and allowing in-person events to resume, it ultimately didn't matter. Nintendo had full control of what was going to happen with Smash at EVO in 2022, and they made sure that it wasn't going to happen. The relationship between Smash and EVO wasn't always perfect, but overall I would say that both sides benefited from one another. Smash wasn't always welcomed into the fighting game community, and yet the Smash community still managed to show that we belonged at EVO. EVO produced some of the greatest tournament sets and storylines that we've ever seen in Smash. It elevated the competitive scene to places that it would have never been able to reach on its own. But in the end, it was Nintendo themselves that would eventually pull the plug. So why did Nintendo shut it down this time around? Well, it could be that Sony was their competitor, it could be because of all the allegations back in 2020 for a lot of Smash players, or it could be because Nintendo is about to drop their biggest circuit ever. I'm talking tournaments across the globe, massive prize pools, big tournaments being marketed everywhere. Except that got canceled too. No circuit, no EVO, no bandana Waddle Dee for DLC, man, we can't get anything.